If you want to support the show, the best way you can is through any of the books or current ongoing Vela shorts that are being released on a regular basis. The easiest way to find this is to go to bit.ly/tmrbooks, and you'll have links there to everything. All of my Kindle books are available for free. If you have Kindle Unlimited, you don't have to pay anything. You get it with your subscription. You can read them all. They're all in screenplay format. That includes Swan Song, The Muses, Duet, In the End, Our Past Does Not Define Us. Anything else that I've written that's available on Kindle, it's available there. You can buy a soft cover if you want. There's a hardcover collection of all of the Swan Song books, all combined into one. That's available as a hardcover. You can pre-order Echo Alpha, which is coming out in November. All of these things are available if you go on Amazon. But quick link, if you go bit.ly/tmrbooks, I have them all there, nice, easily cataloged. Also, down toward the bottom, we have the Kindle Vella content. The first 3 episodes are always free, and then after that, there's a token system that you can use to read. Even if you don't like it, just give it a thumbs up. That way we can get it up higher so more people see it. So one final time, that's bit.ly/tmrbooks, and every Wednesday there's a new Vela book that goes up. Taser and Acrobat, Nanite and Rosebud, Tales from Another World, and The Alchemist and the Illusionist. All go up on Wednesdays, and it's all available on Kindle Vella. All of this is available bit.ly/tmrbooks. Sorry to overload the front, but before we start, one final thing. If you can please go on Apple Podcasts, if that's how you listen, and give us a 5-star rating, that would mean a lot. We're trying to get on to Rotten Tomatoes and sites like that, and we need to get more reviews to be accepted. So if you can go on and give us a 5-star review there, that would be amazing. Thank you very much. We appreciate everything you guys do when you listen. Welcome to Beware Spoilers. I am Adam. Let's talk about Encanto, which is the latest Disney, what's that called? Disney animated picture. It's the 60th, I found out at this screening, because there's a giant thing in the logo for Disney Animation. They have the 60th anniversary, what's it called? 60th anniversary, 60th movie graphic before the movie. So it's, in no uncertain terms, this is the 60th Disney animation movie. I didn't know that before this. But it seems like it should be higher. And, 50th feature. Well, either way, that's not the point. We're here to talk about Encanto. And let me just give the quick once-over for those of you who are wondering if you should bring your kid to see this. I mean, yes. Basically, a review about a movie like this is broken up into 2 parts. Number one, is this a good use of my time and or money to bring my child to? It'll never get them to shut the fuck up for 10 minutes. And yes, I can say that this movie's gonna do that. I mean, look, it's a Disney movie. It's kind of like, you go, what you're gonna be getting into. It's gonna be a lot of music. There's gonna be a lot of cool visuals. There's gonna be a lot of stuff like that. And if you bring your kid's probably gonna like it. I'm not gonna sit here and act like the kid's gonna be the most discerning thing on the planet, because Minions made over $1 billion. So yes, this will entertain your child for an hour and a half, 2 hours, however long this fucking movie is. That said, let's talk about this movie a little bit more in depth for the more discerning person, the adult Disney fan, or the person who wants to go out for, just to see an animated movie, the animation aficionado, the person who, I don't know, the person who just, wants to recaptures their childhood. And the thing is, I think it does an interesting job at, well, number one, here's the thing. Let's talk about animation as a medium, because animation as a medium has an additional important point that needs to be addressed. First and foremost, animation as a medium is a very visual medium. And if you're not taking full advantage of the animation to do things that you couldn't do in live action, vis-a-vis compare the Lion King to the Lion King in photorealistic animation, um, then you're not using the medium right. You might as well make a live action movie. This movie takes full advantage of the animation. And the thing that was really interesting to me is that the marketing kind of went both ways for me, in that there's a great scene of tension early in the movie that kind of gets spoiled by the marketing, because there's a way to market this movie without giving away that the little kid can talk to animals. Um, there's a way to do that, but there's a big moment of tension early in the movie, because like the entire movie revolves around basically what happened was there's the grandmother and her husband get driven from their land. The husband sacrifices his life and in turn enchants this candle that gives the family basically superpowers. And the grandmother doesn't have any powers, doesn't look like, and then the her triplet kids have powers. There's Bruno who can see the future. Maribel's mom, whose name I'm forgetting, but she can cook food and heal people if they eat it. And then there is what's it called? I forgot the other one's name, but she can she can alter the weather. Then they have their kids, and it's like there's Louisa, who can lift things that's very heavy, and then there's this whole thing is exposited during a song in the opening, and it's like this song is to get stuck in your fucking head, and it does a good job. But the thing is, if you don't follow the characters beyond that point, if you're not actively paying attention to what characters are going on and who's who, you're gonna forget. Because it's like there's other things going on, and really, because it's Maribel's story, the other characters are only relevant when they intersect with Maribel. But it's the entire thing kind of works that way. But if you look at like what goes on, like with these characters, it's a great story about like people who refuse to acknowledge the bad is coming, and it's like, and it's a look at cynicism and all of that. But I think that the biggest and most glaring problem from a narrative standpoint with this movie is the fact that, and this is a pet peeve I have across all movies, not specifically animation, not specifically kids movies, not specifically, anything like that. It's any movie that does this, I inherently have a problem, because it's kind of dismissive to whatever's going on in this person's life. And I think that that's a problem. I hate when there's someone who's kind of acting like flagrantly abusive towards people in the movie, and it's kind of just dismissed as, oh, here's why it happened. And I think it's weird that this movie was paired with what happened beforehand, with a short film, because the short that they put before it is entirely about breaking the cycle of abuse, where it's about the short. I forgot the name of the short. I really should have taken a note of it. But what happens is you have these two raccoons. There's a parent raccoon and a baby raccoon, and they go out and they're hunting oysters. And the baby raccoon keeps going out, and the mother keeps, or the parent keeps getting upset, and refuses to explain why he can't do that. Then the baby raccoon goes out, finds a coyote, gets chased, and gets swiped. His nose starts bleeding, and then the mom raccoon has to save it. The mom raccoon yells at the baby raccoon. Then it fast forward years and years and years later, and now the raccoon that was a baby is now an adult, and now that raccoon now has a baby raccoon that is taken care of. And the baby raccoon is doing the same thing, because that's what kids do, is they go out and do things themselves. So the baby raccoon, keeps going out, and the parent raccoon keeps putting them back, like, hide here, don't do that. And then what happens is the parent raccoon finds themselves yelling at the kid. And there's a moment of realization, like, oh my God, I'm doing what happened to me. And rather than continuing that cycle, the parent raccoon takes the baby raccoon up to a tree, and they look down and they're like, that's why you can't go out. That thing will kill you. And it's an interesting story about breaking the cycle of abuse. And I think that to an extent, anytime you do a story like this where you have a character who is abusive, you can't say that, the grandmother and everyone else in the house is not abusive to Maribel, because what happens is she doesn't get her gift on the day she's supposed to, and the door just kind of vanishes instead of giving her power. And everyone kind of treats her like persona non grata after that, because it's like, look, like, she was supposed to get this and it didn't happen, and that's kind of a big deal in the context of this movie, and it's like, is it a sign the magic's going away? So then what happens is everyone's kind of on edge and walking on eggshells when it comes time for the little kid to get his power to talk to animals. And when that's happening, it's everyone's kind of dismissing it. Then what happens is the grandmother's trying to keep up the appearance that things are going wrong, and it's kind of like the pretend normal that you have after a traumatic experience, where they're trying to keep up appearances that nothing's wrong, nothing's going wrong here, and the grandmother's trying to fix up the sister, who's basically poison ivy, trying to fix her up with some very attractive Spanish man, and it ends up being, and she's like, oh, no, there's nothing wrong, and everyone's kind of just pretending that nothing's wrong, but there is, because it's like the girl is really strong with losing her powers, and all of that, all of these things are happening all around them, and we're just going to pretend it's not happening, and that's not good for anyone. And the thing is, it's like she mistreats, what's it called? And I think that, like, when you juxtapose these two things, where it's like the first one is about understanding where your parent came from and then not repeating their mistake, and being like, no, they fucked up, this happened, and we are going to, we're not going to do the same thing, we're going to break the cycle. That's an entirely different story tonally than, well, yeah, she was kind of a bitch the entire movie and just made Maribel's life miserable, but there's a reason for it, so it's okay. It's like, it's kind of the same thing that happened in Ghostbusters, where it's like Egon's not there for the entire movie, well, because he's dead, but, he abandons, I forgot Carrie Coon's character's name, and McKenna Grist's character's name, but he abandons his family, and it's like, well, it's okay, he left the family because he was doing this. It's like, well, no, you still have a right to feel the way you did, and you still have a right to feel that you have been harmed, and you have. And I think that, like, this thing where we're just gonna accept it's like, oh, okay, well, people are just shitty sometimes if things around them are happening, and it's like, well, you're still entitled to your feelings, and you're still entitled to do that. Like, yeah, forgiveness is a common way to go with this, but, and again, it's a kid's movie, so they're not going to delve deep with, like, look, you were just, not good at all during any of this. And it's like, think about, like, what happens with Bruno, and how it's like he's forced to live in the walls because he still loves his family, but he doesn't want to leave them. And he's just not welcome because all he ever delivers is bad news, or the news he is given, because you can see the future, is only ever perceived to be bad news. They never look on the positive side. They always look to the worst, which to an extent comes from where the family comes from. Like, that's understandable from where the family comes from. But I don't think that this movie really categorically fails at anything. It's not a movie that I would probably rewatch in the same way that, like, if we're going with Disney movies that I can rewatch, I know this is going to sound biased to my age, and I think that's a lot of it, but, like, I could rewatch Hercules. James Woods regardless. Which I think that it's very obvious that when they show Hercules during one of the musical numbers, it's modeled after the animated Hercules, which I thought was a cute little, thing. Even Cerberus was a little bit, even if it did have a little bit more armor on him. And I think that like, that I could rewatch. I could rewatch Aladdin. I could rewatch, like, this probably isn't going to make it in there, in the same way that, say, Moana, for a recent one, will. Or, Like, even Raya and the Last Dragon, I liked more than this. And what was the Soul? Oh my god, Soul is fantastic. If you haven't seen Soul yet, but that's a Pixar movie, so that doesn't really count. Um, but yeah, I mean, in terms of marketing, I feel like I don't remember if I finished this thought, but like, they build the tension in the movie about whether or not he's going to get his powers, because the last one to go through the ceremony was Maribel, and it didn't work for her, so everyone's on edge because the entire town comes out to see this. Um, so it's kind of like, everyone's on edge, and then it works. But, going into it in the back of your head, it's going to work because the kid who can talks to animals in the commercial and in the TV spot and in the trailer and everything else. So I feel like that's kind of a thing that they would have been better off not revealing there. But I will give them that, they showed a lot of things to make it look like it's this massive globe-trotting adventure to find the light and find and restore the magic, but it's really not. It's a very self-contained story. Rarely do they leave the house, but even when they do, it's like they don't go outside of the town. All of the times that they see it mostly comes from a few musical numbers. Like it comes from the musical number with Louisa talking about how, yeah, she's physically strong, but she has to put up, she has the weight of the world on her shoulders, and it's a lot of it comes from that. And then there's also a lot the scene where with the going up the stairs with the bird, that's also in the house, because the house is huge. Someone makes a small Doctor Who reference with like, oh my god, it's bigger on the inside. Which at this point, it has to be intentional, not just looking too deeply into it. But those minor gripes aside, the movie's beautiful. The music is catchy and entertaining even though there's only one song that really stands out, and that's the first one. But besides that, none of the music really stands out. I would recommend this movie. Maybe if you're going and you're an adult and you're not going to go see it, if you need something to see with your kids to make them shut up in a movie theater, or if you need to do Christmas shopping and you're going to send your kids somewhere, with a babysitter or an older sibling, this is definitely the kind of thing to send them to, and it definitely is good for that. I don't think that, I don't think it's good for, anything else. I think it'd be good for, it's a good Disney Plus movie. And I hate that we're at this point now, but and that's something else. This is just completely apropos of nothing, but it's really weird that we've had to retrain people to go to the theater after a year of not doing that. Where it's like every trailer is like, this movie is only in theaters, and it's like, or experience this in the theater. But it's an interesting kind of weird thing that we have to do now because of the pandemic. But yeah, I don't know. It's just none of what's happened so far in the last 2 years really with Disney has grabbed me besides Soul. In their animation department. I think that Soul was their best, but Onward wasn't great. Luca, I didn't particularly care for. This was fine. I think Raya's better. I think if you're gonna, Raya's a lot better of a movie, even though it does have its narrative pitfalls. I think that Raya's a better movie of the two, if we're gonna compare and contrast to Disney's animated entries this year. In terms of what I saw in trailers, I saw the Spider-Man trailer. They showed that. I'm just as interested as I was before. I think that one of the things I did notice, though, was that it would be cool if they're all coming through that, Doctor Strange has at the end of the trailer, if that's the end of the movie leading into Doctor Strange into the Multiverse of Madness. But I don't think that's likely. And I do think that the hand that reaches out to save MJ is not Tom Holland. I think that's a redemption of Andrew Garfield. I think that's Andrew Garfield's glove. That's reaching out, and I think that that's going to be the redemption of him fucking up in Amazing Spider-Man 2. It's going to be his, I'm not making this mistake again. I'm going to save the girl this time. I think that's what that moment is. And I'm thinking about it. I'm like, you know what else they could do? They're not going to at this point because she's already on Hawkeye, but they could have brought in Ghost Spider or Spider Gwen or Spider Girl or whatever they're calling her in the movie. They could have brought her in to play the Gwen Stacy Spider-Man, which would have been cool, I guess. But they're probably not going to do that. That was a thought I had when I saw the trailer today. Seeing red does not look particularly interesting. I don't know. It doesn't grab me. Rumble grabbed me a little bit more. That looks kind of cool. Lightyear, I think, if I wasn't sold already, that trailer in the theater would have sold me. And then what was the other one? There was like one more trailer. They had very few trailers before this. And the other thing is AMC fucked up. And I was in a Dolby Cinema theater, and they did not play the Dolby Cinema version of the movie because it wasn't spread out across the entire screen. It was kind of like, not letterboxed, but like it was like an IMAX ratio where it was kind of square. And then on top of that, it didn't take up the entire screen. And then on top of that, they didn't have, what's it called? Like when you're in a Dolby Cinema, it's like rolling sound and stuff like that. And the sound didn't move with the action. And the seats didn't move. The subwoofers in the seat didn't activate. So, I don't know if that's impacting my viewing experience in any way, but, not like I, paid $18 to see it, so I used my A-list. But we'll wrap up there for today. At some point in the next 2 days, I'll have a review up of Wheel of Time, episode 4. If I can get through Super Crooks in a reasonable amount of time, that will be up too, and I will probably be doing, I have a few other Netflix things that I want to cover. This week on 30-minute reviews, we're going to talk about the cancellation, the formal cancellation of Rangers of the New Republic, and a few other things that come up in the news. Plus, we're going to talk about Mitchell and the Mitchells vs. the Machines, I think the movie's called. It was a Netflix animated movie that's got Academy Award buzz. So we'll be back with all of that later this week. And until then, have a great rest of your week. Do you like the show? Do you hate the show? Are you indifferent to the show? No matter what, you should probably let us know what we're doing so we can change it to better suit you, the listener's needs. You can go to either bit.ly/BOScontact, which is a contact form page you can use. Also, you can just email us directly at 30minutereviews@gmail.com. If you have questions that you would like us to answer, we can answer them on the air. We have a few questions every week that will be selected to be answered on air. So if you want to tell us what we should do, or if you have a suggestion for a movie or a TV show or something we should cover, go to bit.ly/BOScontact and also email us 30minutereviews@gmail.com.